And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Next Round Sports. This is Chris Border here with Jeff Amos and Caleb Gopher. How you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Cheers,
Oh,
gentlemen. Good to be
I
back
guess
on
a
again.
win's a win. Ugh. Even if it's
Well, we're
ugly.
back. We're back here after a week break off as we were all doing our civic duty and keeping up with the elections. We're not going to get political here, but that's what we were up to last week. So we'll be doing a little bit of catch up from that point during different parts of the show. We'll do a quick brief over of the World Series and also some of the NFL games that happened the week before. But yeah, just wanted to let you know why we were out there for the week and yeah, go from there.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and start with the NFL here
Mhm.
in the first segment and start out with the Battle of the Besties. Baltimore and Cincy once again going in and Baltimore taking the win. And you got to, we were talking about this off screen,
Such a
Caleb. You got to
ugly
give this
win.
stat of Burrow and Jamar Chase's stats in these two games against Baltimore.
Oh, you want this again? Yeah.
Yes.
So Joe Burrow has 820 yards, 9 touchdowns. Jamar Chase has 21 catches, 457 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And the two games the Ravens and Bengals have played this week, or this season, excuse me. And the Bengals are 0-2. Our defense has been absolutely ugly in these games. It's makes me cry as an old time Ravens fan. Like, where's our defense of old? We were like one of the best defenses, and we could still stop the run, but we just can't stop the pass. And that's the unfortunate thing, is it's a passing league.
Mhm.
We are dead last in passing yards allowed at like 291, I think. What else are we last in? So many things.
Hey, one thing you're not last in is rushing. Because guess
Rushing,
what?
no.
Derrick Henry still effing has it. Jerry.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't necessarily have it in the Bengals game. He only had like 67
Jerry
yards.
Jones. Derrick Henry
But-
looks great.
Yeah, he could have been the
Oh no, they
Cowboys
couldn't
offense,
afford
but
him. Couldn't
Thank you.
afford
Yeah, they couldn't afford the $9 million. But yeah, props to Derrick Henry though. He's now got his 100th touchdown, coming back against the Broncos when we curb stomped them 41-10, and it looked like maybe this defense is okay. Maybe it's not.
You were going against Bo Nix. So.
Yeah, you're again. It was
Oh,
Bo
I know.
Nix.
I was like, that's a little different.
Every
Hey,
So
real
you're welcome
estate
for
great
Zay
against
Taylor
Bo
that
We
Nix.
week.
can hate on Bo Nix all you want. He hasn't looked terrible this year. He's been serviceable for that team. And the way they played against the Chiefs, they should have won that game this last week. They should have beat the Chiefs. They had them the whole time. And
It's
somehow the
it's
Chiefs pulled
honestly,
it out of their
Pat
ass
McAfee
once
show has said it best. If you look back on that clip, the fundamentals of the guy that got blown out on the pass or the field goal block at the end of that game shouldn't be on any special teams line. He was just that horrible. Like, his legs and feet position were off. Like, yeah, just he got bowled over so easy. And I mean, maybe that's something the Chiefs knew and keyed in on and just saved it up for that time.
Maybe
I
it
wouldn't
was.
put it past
I don't
Andy
know.
Reid, but
That'd be good special teams coaching.
yeah. But anyway, speaking of other QBs that are not Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson also now is the only QB with 5 games, at least 5 touchdowns and no picks. And he's got 4 games now with a perfect passer rating. So I think the lie of he can't pass has been busted.
He's just stroking himself off right now.
I mean, we were down 21-7 against. Yeah, we were down 21-7 in the third. And then as me and Jeff were watching it, for sure that Chase Brown fumble seemed to kind of change this game on a dime.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
it did.
Lamar Jackson just took over that game. He had another good, crazy scramble. But I do think, honestly, at the end of this day, both games were very good to watch. But do want to note that the refs did have a very bad game. I think they had a bad game overall.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens had a late hit on Joe Burrow, 2 face masks, one against that last 2-point conversion. The refs always swallow their whistle at the end. But Jeff's going to hate me here, but no, there was no hold. But
Yes,
anyway, there was also an offensive pass interference on the Bengals' first touchdown. But he said one for the good guys.
How is that not a hold? Tell me how that was not a hold.
It was not a hold. The guy's
Are
got
you
his own
fucking
arm
kidding
hooked
me?
underneath him and trying to turn. That's not a hold.
There could have been. You could have made an argument that there's 2 holds on that. You could have made an argument that there's
go
3
sit
penalties
down.
on that play. At
Go
least
sit
Sorry,
down.
we couldn't
We'll
afford
lose in the
Gene
playoffs
Stillwell to come
anyway.
in and win this too. So
No, I mean, I do want to make a note too about our defense. Our
even the
defense is
ref-
so bad right now
Oh,
that we
what about the
have
Bengals
almost given up.
defense?
Let's see, what is this? We've given up more passing yards in the first 10 weeks in franchise history.
Well, your boy
That's how bad this
Marmaduke,
defense is.
your boy Marmaduke got 3 sacks.
He had a good game, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. The pass rush is okay. And the run defense, we're the best in the league at the run defense in yards per game, 73 yards per game. But our pass defense is horrible.
You know how
The only
many
team
sacks
that
the
is as
Bengals got?
lopsided as us, as far as like number 1 offense, horrible defense, is the Buccaneers. Do you think the Buccaneers are going to win a Super Bowl? No. So I don't see how the Ravens are going to win this. I'm calling the Steelers as winning this division. They're going to win this effing division. The Ravens are going to be like the 5th seed in the effing playoffs like they are now, if they had gone this week. But also, the scheduling gods did neither of us a favor, Jeff, when they finally got a division game. The first division game is this week for the Steelers. How's that possible?
Against Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, we've already faced the Bengals twice, the Browns twice now. How did the Ravens get like 4 early on? And then the Bengals have faced the Browns and faced us twice. So, I mean, like, why did the Steelers, when they were having this QB controversy, get kind of fix yourself. We're going to put your stuff later in the year. The games that mean the most.
Well, the Bengals don't play this
Yeah,
December 1st.
the Bengals. Yeah. And also week 17, I think. So you could decide this division.
No, the season's over because, and again, it's been over. You don't have a defense. You do not have a defense. And when you can't really run the ball or run the ball effectively, and you can't stop the run effectively, and you can't consistently stop the pass, you could have the best wide receiver and best quarterback in the league, which I do think the Bengals have.
Y'all probably have one of the best duos, if not the best duos, in Burrow and Chase.
No, it's the best duo in football right now, and you have nothing to show for it other than 4-6. And
yeah, well, like I said,
you're
all
not
those
going to
stats
make the
and you get
playoffs. It's just a complete waste of talent. And this goes back to, again, management and ownership per usual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
very true.
They didn't do right by Joe Burrow. If you ask them, they did right
basically
by Joe
pulled a Jerry
Burrow
Jones.
because they
We're all
paid
in.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't
do
it.
At least Jerry
I mean, your
signed
line
CD.
should be better.
At least Jerry signed CD.
You franchise tag T. Higgins, who was not playing
again, and who is out again. And but you didn't sign Jamar.
Yep.
When it's
goodness. Well, it's okay.
He's the best wide receiver in the league.
The Ravens will get into the playoffs and they will lose again unless we score 25 points. If we score 25, we're 75 or 7-0, but we're 0-3 when we're under 25. So as long as we put up points, which crazy. As a Ravens fan breaks my heart for defense is what I crave. F&A, man, this offense, we just need our defense to be complimentary, and right now it can't even be that.
And I'm still not
unless we're basing Bo Nix.
Would have ever thought you had such poor defense in the AFC North? Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, the NFC and AFC North are usually known for great defenses just because you're up. It's cold. It's a rust belt. It's tougher. Just tougher area of the country. It's everybody sees it, and it's just porous. The defenses are not looking up to snuff. I mean, Pittsburgh is good. The only reason they're looking good is because T.J. Watt is a fucking monster.
Yeah, he might
Russell
be the
Wilson
best
right
defensive
now.
Player in the league.
Wilson and
probably
Pickens.
Is the best.
Don't count them out. Oh yeah, I think he's taking over as the best right now, especially since Myles Garrett. Have we even mentioned his name this year? No.
It's Cleveland. Cleveland is complete dumpster fire like they are normally used to having. They're dumpster fire. Are not fully because it's probably my Cowboys. They are the biggest dumpster fire in the NFL.
It's getting to that point right now. It's getting to that point.
No, I think they are, and also too, you're at a spot where Jerry is just completely lost it, and now you go from pretty mediocre status now to horrendous status with Dak Prescott getting season-ending surgery.
Cooper Rush did not look super sharp.
No,
as we joke, Trey Lance throwing an interception on the first throw he made in the fourth quarter. It's like, that's the Trey Lance we know and love.
He is. But honestly, they need to just play Trey Lance. You know what Cooper Rush is. Cooper Rush is a backup. He's not going to be a starting quarterback. He's not competing for that position in the future. He's a backup. That's what he is. You know that about him. He's a good, serviceable backup. You want him as a backup because he's a guy you can trust to come in because he knows the offense.
Yeah,
no,
he doesn't really throw interceptions. As crazy as like some of his throws were, like the CeeDee Lamb Sun throw was technically behind him. There's several other that were kind of behind the receiver or just away from him. But yeah, he's a backup.
He's a backup. That's what he is. That's why season's over. Play Trey Lance. Play him the rest of the fucking season because you need to see what you got from this guy. You burnt a 4th-round draft pick on him.
I was about to say, I think they know what they got with the guy. A wasted 4th-round pick. That's what you got.
Let him and go ahead and let him play and let the freaking thing burn down around Jerry's head because that's what needs to happen. Cooper's not going to save the season. He's not going to get you to the playoffs. Rush will not get you to the playoffs. So play Trey Lance, see what you have from him, and then you know if you can trade him, if he is anything, if he can rebound from it, or he just sucks and you just cut him and be done with the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the talk going into this week is like, do you start Cooper Rush? Why not start Trey Lance? If you don't start Trey Lance, you're admitting you wasted that 4th-round pick.
Trey Lance should be starting the whole rest of the season, and you just McCarthy's gone. It doesn't matter at this point,
right? And McCarthy knows he's gone.
Yeah, speaking of McCarthy gone, the Micah Parsons words for a second, where he talked about McCarthy could be coaching anywhere else. I think it was a little blown up. I think I see what he was saying in Micah Parsons' podcast, where he's like, I wasn't saying that he doesn't deserve to be here and he won't be here. It's just coaches leave, coaches go, that type of thing. And I was like, okay, I got the vibe of that from what he was talking about as well. Yeah, but Micah Parsons doesn't understand that his words, he's got to choose his words better.
No, he chose his words just fine. He knew what he was saying. He was trying to defend the guy. I mean, he was pissed off. He understands. He's the media,
the media is talking about it. They want McCarthy gone. They want McCarthy gone. That's what they think. He's
running his own media company right now. He understands what he's saying. It's not like he needs to choose words. He knows what he said. He said what
if he wants to be a leader of a team, he needs to choose his damn words.
Or
is he going to be a media guy?
He's proven that. Have you heard what they're talking about him?
It's like Anthony Richardson tapping his helmet. What do you want to be? Do you want to lead this team, or do you want to just
be the best player on your team? But he's not your leader. He can be the best player on your defense, but he will not be your leader. He is very antisocial with stuff. They've talked about in the locker room that he's a weird, strange guy. I've heard too much of the talk about it on 105 for the thing because they get the inside access to him. I don't get an assignment in Pittsburgh, but he is a little strange. He's a little off, a little his own world kind of thing. He's not a leader, and that's fine. If your best player is not a leader, that doesn't make anything different. Yeah. He just needs to be motivated by the leader to play at his best. That's just what happens. Everybody has God-gifted talent is not going to have the talent to be a leader. That's just, unfortunately, the way it is.
And nobody twisted Micah's words around when Micah verbatim said Mike McCarthy has not put in as many hours as Zach Martin and these other guys. No one twisted.
That's what I said. Those are
Micah
his words.
Parsons.
Like, I get he wasn't necessarily saying that McCarthy was going to be gone and he wanted him gone, but I mean, these are not words that fuel a fire, basically.
Well, no, to me, he's pissed. He wanted to have a better season this year. He wanted to do it for the guys on his team that he's, has respect for.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Everyone respects Zach Martin. They wanted to do something for him. That's those guys that you get, they're getting long in the tooth, getting ready to retire, that have been very good, that you want them to go out with a ring, but they're not, it's not going to happen for them. It's not
if they stay with the Cowboys. Yeah.
And also too, A part of you
Marcus
wondered.
Ware needed to leave to make that happen. I was extremely happy he got his ring with the Broncos.
Yeah, not true.
Extremely happy for him.
Very same.
A part of me wonders also too if Micah would have wanted Dan Quinn to be the head coach of this thing instead of McCarthy.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
He would have.
Yeah,
and really,
I mean,
right
now I think a lot of people would have taken Dan Quinn.
Yeah, he's about to be coach of the year probably, or in line for it.
Well, I mean the
I mean, unfortunately, they can't beat the effing. Who are they? Are they the Eagles?
Steelers.
Yeah,
the
Steelers. Excuse me. Yeah, other Pittsburgh teams. Excuse me.
They play the Eagles this Thursday. So that's going to be a good game to watch there. But yeah, I mean, and Jaden Daniels has looked better than what I expected. I didn't expect him to look this good. I didn't expect him to be terrible. Caleb Williams is terrible, but I didn't expect him to look this good coming in. The defense has looked a lot better, and it's just. I mean, Dan Quinn did do this in Atlanta, where he was able to get the team all the way to the Super Bowl, but couldn't get them all the way across the hump. Whether that was
with a
Kyle
30-point
Shanahan
lead,
fucking him over, I don't know. No one knows. No one's ever going to know. But they brought in Cliff Kingsbury to come run the offense, and I mean they're looking good, and it shows when you have an ownership with the new ownership there for Washington that comes in and isn't micromanaging. Trust the people, bring in the right people, and trust them to do it. Bring in the people that want to win, that are going to buy into this system, and trust them to run it. Don't sit there trying to hold over the top or, hey, I need this guy. All right, we'll get you this guy. Have some discussion with it. It's not like they're asking for the world. Hey, you need to go get me Patrick Mahomes or I can't win. No, it's getting me a guy.
I mean, Marshawn Lattimore to the Commanders too. You knew he's still injured technically, but
he's still injured. But to me, I was like, okay, Cowboys, why couldn't you make this trade?
Yeah, no, they got you the third string receiver from the Panthers, Mingo.
Yes, Mingo. That's what they traded. They traded Mingo for what, a 5th round draft pick.
A fourth, another fourth that's down.
Oh, geez.
Sorry, my bad. I stand corrected. Another 4th round draft pick.
Yeah, because we know how little this team values 4th round draft picks. It's not like they couldn't have, I don't know, drafted a running back in the 4th round.
With as many holes as they need as much draft capital as they get their hands on, as many holes as this team has. And supposedly one of the latest rumors is Deion Sanders is going to be the new Cowboys coach next year.
I've heard that rumor quite a bit, that
his son's going to be drafted.
Draft Sanders, bring in Deion. A lot of talking heads have been talking about that. Have talked about guys who
the Cowboys need to draft Ashton Genty. That's who they need to draft.
Well, one kind of weird draft scenario I heard was that the Cowboys would have the number 1 overall pick, which I don't see that happening, but that they'd take Shakir Sanders, and then they would make a trade with the Saints for the 5th round pick, and then take Gentry at the 5th round by trading Dak Prescott over to the Saints. I was like, I don't see that effing happening in any possible future. If anyone traded,
not with the cap space of both teams, I think.
No, and they still have Carr. I mean, why would you trade for Prescott when you have Carr, who's who's the same as or worse, and then deal with that and have to deal with the money? No, that would never happen. This is done.
Plus, I mean, the amount of dead money that would be left over, because I mean, CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott are 49% of the cap for the Cowboys next year.
Yes,
that's 2 players at 49%.
Yes, that's absurd. You cannot win when you do that. You have to have the quarterback take less money. Which, I mean, I get it. You want to get paid.
Yeah.
Go get more endorsement deals.
If anything,
but the agent's going to get paid too. So the agent wants them to get the highest contract they can so they can get paid on it.
Yes, because their percentage goes up. Their 10% is higher, or whatever percentage they're getting.
Exactly. But if you want to win as a quarterback, you have to take less money. You're still getting paid a lot of money. You have to take less money so they can pay to bring you weapons to play with.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Patrick Mahomes deal, the 10-year, $450 million or whatever he signed. It's looking better and better every year, and they're able to keep some of these players around him, like Chris Ford and the others. And
well,
unfortunately keep winning. But they better not be fucking undefeated by the time we get to the playoffs. I do not want to hear that talk.
This sounds like I'm being, all for the owners on this, which I'm not. But we need to stop this leapfrogging bullshit. The next guy up gets paid higher every single time because subpar quarterbacks are getting paid like top level talent. And I will put out my first example in Lawrence in Jacksonville. He does not deserve the money that he is getting by any means at all. But
like we talked about a couple weeks ago, is he a bust?
Yeah. Yes. Because you're the next guy up, we keep leapfrogging. The next guy gets paid higher. The next guy gets paid higher. We have to. Somebody's got to put their foot down and say, "I'm not paying the guy. Somebody else can do it," and just let him go. And
Deshaun Watson, what he got, I don't know if you're going to ever see that.
It was absurd. Well, that's what someone's going to have to take a stand and say enough's enough. Because this guy's not worth this money. We'd rather and go down for 3 years and stack up some draft picks and try and build from the inside, than try to pay a mediocre quarterback, $700 million. Because it's just not worth it. We can't do anything with this.
Yeah, someone has to
stack up. We're not doing this to you. We're going to build this up from the bottom. It's going to suck for a couple of years. That's what we're going to do.
Again, the problem, too, is, the players' union wants each player to do what you're talking about. They want the salaries to go up, so they always tell players to try to go for the high stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
The agents tell them to go for it. They, of course, want the more money, and I don't blame them on either of the accounts. It makes sense from all three perspectives.
I'm not hating on them getting more money.
Yeah. Somebody really does need to
somebody's got to take a stand.
Down, or we've got to bump up the salary cap by quite a bit.
Well, they bump up the salary cap, but every time they do,
they bump it up.
New high
besides the COVID year,
eats it up. They eat it up every single time. It just eats it up. So it's null and void. It doesn't matter that you got it up because it just ate up the entire.
Yeah, and some of it also I think is Jerry Jones making these contracts because they seem like every year they're up against the cap, and most teams they're not paying two players 50%.
Jerry needs to read Donald Trump's book, The Art of Negotiation, because he does not know how to negotiate shit.
Yeah.
At all. Nothing.
He does not.
4th draft pick for Nico from Carolina. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Well, apparently they also came out and said that they may have misevaluated that.
Well, the Ravens got the Panthers' best receiver.
Johnson for less.
Yeah, we got their best receiver, but he's still dropping the ball.
5th. Well, he did that in Pittsburgh too, but he was still their best receiver. You got him for a fucking 5th round.
Yeah,
and we get
the Panthers are paying some of his salary. So overall, it's
the art of the deal. I said that wrong. Not the art of negotiate. The art of the deal. That's what he needs to read. No, I said negotiation. I didn't say the art of the deal.
Whatever. I wasn't paying attention.
I fact checked myself.
I was about to correct you on that. But
yeah.
But you
Various
didn't.
wide too.
You didn't get a chance to, so don't start with me on that.
Yeah.
So,
man. Yeah,
Philly rubbed our nose in it, 34-6. We couldn't do shit to them. They couldn't score on them. The offense looked hard, of course, but it's the first game without Dak, so that was going to happen. Gloom and doom the rest of the year.
Micah Parsons looked good in his return, though. He had a nice strip sack.
For about 2 quarters.
About a half.
And then he was done, and he checked out.
He's like
per usual. The defense looked good earlier, but they got tired because they were out there the whole time because the offense couldn't fucking drive, anything. They drove like a freaking busted up 1992 jalopy. So whatever. Anyway, we'll move on from that because they suck once again.
And just icing on the cake was Zeke fumbling into the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The minute that happened, I immediately yelled at the TV, "This is what you brought him back for."
Yeah.
And that's probably what they made the agreement is he's going to be the touchdown guy, and Rico Daddle is going to be the middle of the field, get you down there type of guy. But for the most part, Zeke's going to be your big bruiser back.
Yeah. He was a bruiser 5 years ago, not anymore.
Oh, yeah.
No. He's pathetic.
For sure.
That's just what it is. Hey, that's the life of a running back. Unfortunately, you just have to realize you have, if you're going to be a running back, a professional football running back, you're going to have a very, very short career. Your career is going to be over 5 to 8 years longer, quicker than almost every other position, just because of the way that it happens. And we're not a running back league anymore, and that's still how quickly you're going to be run out. So, anyways, next week, as we talked about it earlier, Pitt.
Mm-hmm. First meeting of the year. So if we win, we get the division lead. If we lose, we suck again.
If you lose, you lost to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and we lost to Kenny Pickett last year twice.
You did. You lost to Kenny fucking Pickett, who can't even fucking sniff the field over in Philly.
I know. Yeah, I don't have very high hopes this week. I just think Russell Wilson's going to shred this poor offensive defense. Now, hopefully we get scored 25 points. Like I said, we're undefeated when we do it. But, I mean, like we said, this is a much better balanced team, and TJ Watt over there is going to be sniffing. And you still have that rookie. Rosengarten's been good down on that tackle and kind of stabilized the line for us, but he's still a rookie. So he could get exposed potentially.
Well, you'll be going up against the best defensive player in the league.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Like I said,
TJ Watt's the best defensive player of the year. The only other person who could probably challenge him on that would be Nick Bosa out in San Francisco.
He's really this reminds me too. It's not just our defense that infuriates me about the Ravens, and I think something that's going to crop up in this game too. The Ravens lead the league in penalties. Like, we have the most effing penalties in the league. Like, we're the only team with 80 right now. No other team is at 80. The closest is Jets at 75. Yeah, like that is a lot of penalties. And we had 11 against the Bengals. Yeah, so I mean, the refs even called us for 11 last week. So I mean, I expect a lot of holding calls, probably from false starts by the Steelers fronts coming in. I mean, that's the thing I think is honestly more infuriating is the fact that there's no discipline. Like, you've got to play fucking defensive football. And even in the first week, we had 3 or 4 or 5, something like that, false starts in the first quarter, illegal formations, and just stupid penalties. And it's like, Harbaugh, that's squarely on his shoulders. So, I mean, I think these penalties are going to come back. Yeah, I think these penalties are going to crop up again and cause problems against us and the Steelers. So I do not expect the Ravens to beat the Steelers by any means. It could be close, but it's going to be like 25-17 or something maybe.
Well, I'll definitely get to see that game because it's the Steelers, so I'll get to see that game for sure. So looking forward to watching that one.
I'm thinking we'll get that one too.
I'm thinking so too.
I assume you would. Yeah, during that time there aren't too many other games.
Plus the main team in the Cowboys, as we'll get into later, are playing Monday Night Football. So them being out of the way and 2 top teams in division game, I think this very well could be aired nationwide.
Sunday Night Football, Bengals and Chargers. Your boy Collinsworth going to call his team.
Yes, indeed. And, just I'm kind of surprised that this game was flexed into Sunday night. I just don't think
Well, it's because it's going to be high scoring, I think.
Well, I just don't think NBC...
Because they want to see a shootout between Burrow and Herbert.
Yeah, right. They want to talk about it and build the storylines around it.
And so the thing is, I'm going to focus more on the Chargers because we all know Burrow and Chase and all that. But really, the surprise for me this year with the Chargers is that they really haven't asked Justin Herbert to win this on his own. It's for the first time he's had.
J.K. Dobbins has been healthy for most of the year and have a decent.
For the first time, he has a reliable.
Good for him.
First time he has a reliable running game.
I'd say second time, early Austin Eckler.
No, not like this.
It stayed pretty healthy. He did.
Yeah, but
he was a dual threat at the time. He's not the same back now.
But J.K. Dobbins has been absolutely fantastic for the Chargers, and I think he's been primarily the reason why they've been doing so good. And obviously, they have a solid defense as well, particularly a really solid secondary. But yeah, we saw early in his career where Justin Herbert was throwing the ball all over the place, and but now he's really become more of just I don't think game manager is fair, but really just more of an efficient quarterback, and he really relying on his running game. Also picking up Lad McConkey in the draft.
That's what they're doing. Taking the Brett Favre out of him. Take that gunslinger out of him.
Right, and that's what Harbaugh was brought in to do, is to make him a more efficient quarterback, which he has turned into.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, how this game is going to go, I think it's going to be, again, awfully close. And in these games where it's super close, it's going to come down to who has the ball last. Typically, with the team that has the worst defense will not have the ball last. And I anticipate the Chargers winning on a last-second field goal somewhere in the neighborhood of 27 to 24.
That would be
interesting too. Yeah.
That would be
now one thing too.
Dick the kicker who would be knocking that in.
Yeah.
That is correct. The now rich Dicker the kicker with his new contract.
Yeah, but don't forget the Chargers also have a defense. I mean, they've been holding teams to about 10 points a game, give or take, most of the year. So
I brought up their defense, so their secondary is excellent, and so that's one thing that's going to be interesting is whether or not he's not going against Baltimore's pass defense this time.
Mm-hmm. And the run defense and rush attack's not as vaunted. So the run defense, as we know, is very weak for the Bengals and for the Cowboys both this year. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this could be a balanced team. So I mean, I think you've got a shot to be in there, like you said.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see if the
unstoppable
force beats the immovable object in the Charger defense. And also, again, will we see J.K. Dobbins run all over the Bengals? My anticipation is yes, we will. So,
highly probable.
But it'll be an entertaining game to say the least.
That is true. That is true. And last, we'll go ahead and move into Monday night. Houston at Dallas. This game's going to be a bloodbath. Dallas might be able to get some interceptions, kind of like they did against Philly, but it's.
So you're saying the Texans need to wear their red jerseys again?
I'm going to say I hate to say it, but I was kind of digging the red jerseys. I was with the two horns on the side.
They were cool. I liked them.
I'm not gonna lie. I really thought those were
I also liked
them
better than the Ravens purple jerseys, but those were pretty nice too.
The purple, I did like the purple with the gold. I'm not a big fan of the Ravens facing.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
I didn't hate the colors. I just didn't like the bird on the side. But yeah, Houston's. I was really digging that this last week. That's fine. I hate to say it because I hate Houston, but they're gonna. Dallas will once again be completely destroyed at home. Dallas fans, don't even give Jerry money. Don't go to this game. Just sell them to the Houston fans.
You know when the last touchdown at AT&T Stadium was, funny enough? It was against the Ravens in like September 22nd. That's the last time there was a touchdown scored by the Cowboys in that stadium.
Just completely pathetic. It's going to be a complete just ass waxing on national TV on Monday night. And I hope they keep showing Jerry just like with his somber face up in his box the whole time.
Oh, that reminds me. There was something we noticed too last during the Eagles game. Jerry wasn't in the box watching for a little while.
He disappeared.
Like he kind of disappeared.
Was that pissed.
We didn't see him come down, but we think he may have left his box for a while.
I hope
he did have his Johnny Walker in hand. He was
messing up a storm and just what. This is all his doing, and he needs to have his nose rubbed in it like a dog that just messed all over the carpet. And I want him to every game that they have at home. I want them to get blown out so the fans can just relish him getting his face rubbed in it with we're all in, and no, we can't afford Derrick Henry. We can't do this. We can't do this. Just rub it in his face.
Make it shitty trades.
Seated and how cocky this entire front office was of this bullshit they were putting out on the field, and they knew it was bullshit, and they still tried to fucking sell it.
Of course they did. They have no choice. Once it's out there, they're like, well, fuck, this is what we got to work with.
Every single Cowboys fan that I know now, as opposed to wanting them to win, they are cheering for their doors to get blown off every single week to humiliate Jerry. Right. And I don't blame them at all. I do not blame them at all.
So you can tell us that we know about the moon next week.
Oh, exactly. God. All right. I've had enough talking about this infuriating sport. We're going to take a quick break.
Hold on just a second, though. I want to get your take on who's going to win this Chiefs-Bills game.
Oh, good call.
Oh, yeah, we need to talk about this. I forgot about the Chiefs-Bills. The Chiefs are going to win in some bullshit fashion. It's going to fucking happen.
The refs
win at the end. Refs will do something, and Harrison Butker will hit a 60-yard field goal.
Man. Fair enough. Yeah, I just don't see the Bills. I mean, whenever they go against these good teams, they just kind of crumble, like the Ravens. But when they're beating up easy teams like the Jets, they just run all over them.
They can because they've got everything on Allen's lap. He has to win the games now, and he doesn't have anyone to throw to.
Oh, he's got Cooper now. He's got Cooper now. They made a trade.
He does have a Mark Cooper. My apologies, but Cooper has to stay motivated. You have to keep him motivated.
I was hoping Keon Coleman would be better, or Keon Coleman, excuse me. Draft pick out of Florida State for them, but he hasn't necessarily shown up at like 2 games.
It'll be interesting to see if this will be the game where Amari Cooper starts showing up, because it does take a little time. A lot.
He got a touchdown that first game with Buffalo.
Correct. Yes, he did get that first touchdown.
Keon Coleman told him where to be and how to run his route.
Buffalo, but one thing that has helped Allen this year is not only James Cook, but Ray Davis. Being a change of pace back for Buffalo has helped out a lot. So at least he has, I think, a running game that you can count on. Not to mention himself running the football. But it's hard to win when Khalil Shakir is your best wide receiver, but they're making it work right now. Being 8-2, this is going to be a heck of a game. At some point, the Chiefs' luck has to run out, and to me, it make the most sense to be against the second best team in the AFC in Buffalo, and Buffalo is a slight Vegas favorite at 2.5. So,
well, they're also playing at home, so this will be
and they're playing
with the Bills Mafia
in Buffalo
in force,
unless if it happens like last year where Buffalo blew it to KC.
Yeah. Hopefully
now,
not.
my question is, will Jason Kelce get the game and get crazy with the Bills Mafia out in the stands again?
Oh, God. Yes, and yes, and yes.
All the above.
And spike someone's phone again, too.
Yes. All right, well, now we are done with the NFL. We will talk about it next week. I've had my fill. We're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back in just a few moments where we get into college football. And welcome back from the break, as we're ready to jump right in to college football. And what an exciting previous weekend we had here with a few really huge upsets. So we'll go ahead and talk about right off the bat. Number 4, Miami getting upset 23-28 by Georgia Tech. And
I mean, does this surprise us? I don't see why this is the least surprising one of them all to me. I mean, they took a Hail Mary against Virginia Tech. They had a hard time with Louisville. Like, this is not necessarily that great of a team. They play down to their opponents a lot of the time.
We were saying that before, that they're in the ACC. They could still win the ACC. But
but at least the door's now open for SMU.
Great. They got hyped up because everybody thought the U is back.
Right. And Cam Ward's looked phenomenal for most of the year.
And he had a great game. And he had a great game.
Yeah, I said even the games they've lost, he had a good game.
But the key is that, you know, typical for Georgia Tech this year, when they win, they're able to run the ball effectively. Haynes King is essentially an option quarterback. He is able to run the ball 20 times for 93 yards. They had 271.
And he was perfect 6 for 6 passing.
Right. They had 271 rushing yards on the ground. So that was huge. Also, I felt there was horrible game management at the end. Actually, no, not the end. The entirety of the game. And this first started when it was 21-10 Georgia Tech. Miami scored a touchdown. This was all the way back in the third quarter, went for two way too early and missed a 2-point conversion, keeping it only 21-16 as opposed to 21-17. Then Georgia Tech went down the field and scored a touchdown to make it 28-16. And then when Miami had it deep in Georgia Tech's territory, when they could only kick a field goal because of it was 4th and I think goal, like at the 20 roughly. They couldn't kick a field goal. Instead, they had to force going for a touchdown, and they didn't get it. And so also they blew a timeout on a punt. And so, you know, things like that. Those are really just bad. That's really just bad game management. But yeah, I think the key obviously was the ability of Georgia Tech just to run all over Miami. But yeah, as we've discussed all year, Miami has been a little bit of fool's gold, and then their high ranking is really, you know, contingent upon people wanting to see the U come back. Their best win this year was against Louisville on the road, but so many close games they've been in. I mean, when you look at Miami, I mean, you mentioned the Virginia Tech game. We mentioned the Louisville game.
Yeah.
Let's not forget they were down 20 plus points against Cal on the road, and they had to win that game 39-38. So Miami's had some close calls this year, and then it finally bit them in the ass. And we'll see if they can make the ACC championship game. And let us not forget, that's not necessarily a guarantee that they do make the ACC championship game, because you have SMU, who's undefeated in the ACC, and you have Clemson with only one loss in the ACC as well. So I don't know exactly who would potentially win the tiebreaker between Miami and Clemson, as they don't play each other this year. My guess is that it would be Miami, because they did beat the next best team in line in Louisville. Clemson did not. But yeah, you don't know for sure if you're Miami, if you're going to get in. So cannot take. I mean, this is a pretty bad loss for Miami.
Bad loss standing wise, yeah, for sure. But like I said, to me, this isn't really surprising. Like it just seemed inevitable this year the way.
No,
but yeah, like you said, I mean, Cam Ward still had like 389 yards and 3 touchdowns. His Heisman boat is not wrecked by this game by any means. Like he's still in the hunt. It's him and Ashton Genty still.
This isn't shocking, but at the same time, it's Miami's going to have to win out to have a chance.
Oh yes.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
All right, well, that knocks out not the biggest upset, but probably, as you would say, rankings wise, it was the biggest, unfortunately. But the next one we got is Georgia finally showing who they are, getting beat down by Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. This game,
we knew they got bigger up front.
What it really was, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, the big defensive line for Ole Miss finally showed up, and then Carson Beck just proved again, time and time again, that he is not a professional, or he can't be a good QB. I don't even think he can be a good college QB, much less the NFL draft prospect that many people had him as coming in this year. He sucks.
Right. I mean, going into this year,
3 interceptions this game.
Well, we had 1 against Ole Miss, but he had 3 against Florida, and he had 3 at the prior game as well against Texas. So the last 2 games he had 3 interceptions. But yeah, Carson Beck was anticipated to be a top 5 pick going into this year, and he has shown that when he is asked to win a game, he cannot do it. And it's just. Mm-hmm. I think that's really been the main factor for Georgia this year.
Like you said, so they had to Carson Beck try to win it, and he just can't.
No, and also, too, there's only so much that Georgia could do defensively. And really, it's pretty remarkable that how Georgia was able to dominate Texas as much as they were able to. And that was with the horrible Carson Beck performance as well. It's just that Texas offensive line didn't show up. But going back to this game in particular, Jackson Dart, this game was pouring down rain in Oxford, Mississippi, which is just a little south of Memphis. The rain was absolutely terrible. I thought Jackson Dart played a very efficient game based on the weather conditions. And then Ole Miss finally getting over the hump with Lane Kiffin, people saying that he's not able to win the big game. And then really this was a complete domination by Ole Miss.
Yeah, this is the first time Georgia's lost to somebody not named Alabama in like 386 games or something stupid.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's only been Alabama that's had Georgia's number until this past week, and we'll be talking about this here in a little bit, but Georgia will face essentially an elimination game this Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Although there's talk that they could put in a 3-loss team or a 3-loss SEC team into this playoffs, and
there's no way they should do that.
I don't think so either. Like, if you got 3 losses, I'm sorry, that's just a bad year. You got to come back and try again.
Mm-hmm. Even with the expanded playoffs, this isn't just let anybody in.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, this is like we were saying earlier. They want to see the Miami U back, so Miami's ranked higher than they should be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Georgia's still there. Alabama's there. I think some of the early rankings technically have Boise State and SMU out of the top 12. Even though they should be in and most likely will get in, assuming they win the conference or in the Power Big Five, they'll knock like maybe a Georgia or an Ole Miss out. And maybe in Alabama too. Because Alabama's got 2 losses. It's crazy to think that some of the top teams have 2 losses in that SEC right now. I mean, your Georgias, your Alabama, LSU, Georgia. Yeah. No, very true. I mean, right now Texas is the head of the SEC because they only have 1 loss.
Exactly. And it came to an SEC team.
Mm-hmm.
That loss is not looking as good now as it did.
Yeah, but at the time, though, I mean, the O-line for Texas is still a problem. Even against Florida, they didn't look great early on. They solidified later, but it's still, for some reason, so shaky. You've got some all-pros or all college athletes, whatever you got there, all teams.
And that makes me wonder about their offensive line coach and if he's actually getting the most, because you do have a lot of quality talent there on the line. And at some point, when is it going to go off of, okay, why are
it's like the Ravens defensive coordinator?
Maybe so. In some way.
I mean, Derrick Henry is like 30, so I mean, not to jump back in NFL real too far, but I mean, we don't want to waste these years with Derrick Henry. If we could have this year's offense and last year's defense, that's a Super Bowl team. But yeah,
I don't know what happened to my teams. I'm sorry.
You're good. But anyway, Army, I think, is coming undefeated into Notre Dame here. They continue their winning streak. They didn't look too good against North Texas, though.
No,
which is surprising.
This was a really, really interesting game.
They might have been looking ahead, even though they've got an off week this week.
Right. This was a really bizarre game because this is really projected to be a shootout. I believe the over-under for this game was 66.5, and the final was 14-3. I think no one has stopped Army like that this year, with the exception of North Texas. And on the flip side, no one's really stopped North Texas the way Army did. And North Texas had a couple times deep in Army's territory where they had the opportunity to score touchdowns, and they got nothing out of it. Not just a field goal, but literally nothing. And so Army was a little lucky in this game, because if you told me that Army won this game 14-3, I'd be saying, okay, is this the end of the first quarter or what? I mean, the fact that was a final score is absolutely shocking to me.
Very true, yeah.
I cannot wait till Army and Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium. That I would love to see that game in person.
That game will be on here at my household. I cannot wait to watch that game, especially after Notre Dame got to do what everybody else has done this year and completely embarrass Florida State. And Florida State deserves their nose rubbed in it just as much as Jerry Jones does for the way that they acted last season, and for them to get blown out 52-3 by Notre Dame this last week just puts a smile on my face. The Cowboys seem.
Florida State is just
and really picked up where they left off.
Yeah, and Florida State is probably as bad as LSU right now. LSU's kind of cooked.
Oh, well,
LSU
at least is in the top 25, but Florida State, they're 1-9.
No, they shouldn't be. I'm not saying they should. They should be, but they are, unfortunately. But Florida State is 1-9, and after the way that they just completely bitched out last season, that we raked them over the coals for that at the time.
Yes,
we should be in the playoff. We should be in the playoff. Well, sorry, you're not. Guess what? You're not.
And they never got over it.
No, they didn't. And for them to sit all their players against Georgia in protest, and that was such a chicken shit move. And they pissed off the football gods so much that they're going to get completely embarrassed all year long. I hope they don't win another game. I hope they get completely blown out about this. So I'm going to talk about them every single week that they do.
And they may not. And Florida State today went ahead and fired both of their offense and defensive coordinators this morning, and just amp up the Dion to Florida State rumors.
He's not going to the Cowboys? Yeah.
Oh, God.
That's the other rumor.
Cowboys, or maybe he'll go to Cleveland or New Orleans or wherever Shador is going to get drafted. But just a complete disaster for Florida State. And this is my sad face.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys think of Penn State creeping back into the top 4, even with their loss to Ohio State a couple weeks ago? That was a closer game than I kind of thought it would be, but the Ohio State was just the better team.
I think because it was as close as it was is why they were able to still stay close in there, along with these losses by Miami and Georgia. I just don't think that the voters think there's a better team than them, even though they're not. Probably count-wise, probably should be a top 4 team, but they just don't think these other teams are as good.
Yeah, true. And there's a lot of losses this year to go around.
The only thing I would say
by association.
The only thing I would say is Indiana should be ranked ahead of Penn State, in my opinion.
Yes, agreed.
Well, Indiana is ranked at number 5. They're right there, and they've earned every they've completely earned the ranking.
Been phenomenal.
Right. I just think they should be ahead of Penn State, though. That's all. Because really,
I agree with you.
What's that?
They'll have their chance.
Yeah, when they play Ohio State in a couple of weeks, yes, they will have their chance. And that's going to be a hell of a game, and I can't wait for it. But yeah, let's go. So again, the the playoff rankings themselves are different than what your bracket is. So just a reminder to
Oregon and Texas, then BYU and Miami are in the top 4 for that with the byes.
Yes, correct. As those teams are your top 4
even with Miami
winners.
losing.
Even with Miami losing, that is correct. So,
like you said, so they got the conference. Though.
Correct. Now, the only issue I have with that is technically at the moment, SMU is winning the conference. So, in theory, shouldn't they be the ones that are there? But
technically,
you're not wrong.
But anyway, so that's how the things are. So for the people that are a little confused, is like, okay, why are they shown in the bracket here if they're ranked here? It's because the top 4 conference winners of conference will be seeded 1 through 4, and then there'll be an automatic non-power 4 school that gets an automatic bid, and most likely they'll be ranked 12th due to the fact that they'll be outside the top 12, in which
currently
we see
Boise State, according to the
correct. Boise
bracket.
State is the 12th.
My boy Ashton Genty getting 209 yards and 3 touchdowns last week, and a very close game against Nevada. I was getting worried near the end of that game.
Watch out for Travis Hunter, though, in the Heisman. And watch out for Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback of Oregon.
Travis Hunter needs to be healthy more. I know he's back now, but he missed like 2 or 3 games, I think, earlier on.
I do agree with you with Gabriel because Oregon has been consistent all year long. Their team, they've stayed consistent.
Yeah, they've cleaned up some of that early offensive line play they had early on.
And they've seemed to correct it. And honestly, right now, at this point of the season, I don't think there's a team that can beat Oregon. Oregon right now is looking like a championship quality team at this moment. Now, the question is, can they keep this consistently going as the season progresses?
Yeah, they also hasn't necessarily played anybody again lately. They've kind of beat up on lower opponents, I think, too.
Well, they have, but you're doing what you have to do, and they look like they're correcting some of their issues. So that's what you got to do at this point. You don't make schedule. Unless you're Notre Dame, then you do make your schedule.
And you have to remember, everyone said, at the start of the season, Oregon barely squeaked by Boise State. Well, Boise State's a really fucking good team. So, they have 2 real solid wins on their schedule with Boise State and Ohio State.
And then they still beat Illinois, who's currently ranked, I think, or was ranked at the time at least.
Yeah, they were ranked at the time. Illinois is top probably 35 team, and that's a decent win too. And then, Oregon will go to the Big Ten championship game and will be undefeated going into that game, and it'll just be most likely it'll be against. Well, I guess we'll see the winner of Ohio State and Indiana.
We'll have to see at that point.
And so, if Ohio State beats Indiana, then it would be Ohio State, Oregon, in another rematch, which would be an absolutely fantastic game to watch.
Well, I would like to see Indiana and Oregon. But
that would also be fun too. You'd have 2 undefeateds. Now, granted, at the same time, probably. Well, actually, I would say both. I would say both teams that make the Big Ten championship game are going to be in the college football playoff.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at Ohio State and Oregon and Indiana. Those 3 teams are almost locks right now, with about 2 or 3 weeks left in the season before the bowls.
I would say so, barring Indiana. I mean, they even if they lose to Ohio State, I still think. I mean, they'll beat Purdue, obviously, and then they'll only have 1 loss on their ledger. And so, I think that'd be good enough to get in. And I'd rather put Indiana in there as opposed to, Miami or someone like that. Now, granted, maybe Indiana and Penn State would both get in. I don't know if 4 teams from the Big Ten could get in, but
That's really pushing it.
it's possible.
Yeah,
And
especially
so
if they're debating whether they want to put a 3-loss team SEC in that bracket, which makes absolutely no sense.
And then you'd have to debate between Indiana and Penn State, which I mean, both you're really pretty much you would be comparing. Okay, what loss to Ohio State was better? Indiana's loss to Ohio State or Penn State's loss to Ohio State?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, obviously, I think the 12-team playoff has been a success, and I think there was really no choice.
See if it's a success.
Well, no, they had no choice.
That still seems like too many teams, but at least this gives Boise a chance.
Well, they had no choice but to go to this format, and here's why: because
they needed to expand it. I don't know about 12, like maybe 8.
Well, the thing is that when you made these super leagues, especially with no divisions, you had lopsided schedules, and so you have half the conference have super difficult schedules, and then the other side of the conference have very easy schedules. This happened to the SEC and the Big Ten. This is why we're talking about Penn State and Indiana right now, evaluating what loss is better to try and get them in to the NCAA playoff, as opposed to actually who they've beaten, which neither of them have really beaten anybody so far. We think they're good, but do we really know they're good? Not necessarily. And that's what the playoff is going to prove.
Exactly.
But
all right,
we got Tennessee, Georgia for Saturday.
Yeah, the only game next week, really.
Yeah, I would say that's the biggest game going in. I think Texas, Arkansas could be somewhat.
If that game gets interesting, Texas is in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it to be
that they're now back in the top 4 after the losses that came through.
Currently ranked 2 in the playoffs.
They need to come out and beat Arkansas the way they did Florida. They need to look better than they did early in the game against Florida. They need to come out. They need to dominate. They need to exert their dominance right off the bat and go ahead and just take this game easy. Yeah, but really, with this Tennessee-Georgia game, to me, this is a game that one of the games I'm looking forward to this week. But
and I mean, honestly, there's also a sleeper kind of Heisman in here, I think, with Sampson, the running back for Tennessee. He's got over 1,000 yards right now.
But to me,
and he's got 20 touchdowns. So.
Both of these teams need to win this game. Whoever loses this game, I think, is going to have a hard time getting into the playoff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is an elimination game, in my opinion.
Unfortunately, people are still writing Alabama stuff, because that would give Alabama and Tennessee both 2 losses. And if Georgia loses this game, they now got 3.
Yeah,
Georgia's one of those things we said you just can't. Yeah, you just can't put a 3-loss team in.
So Georgia, no
matter who they're playing against,
Tennessee gets a second loss just because of Alabama's clout. Alabama will get a nod above them in this. That will happen. They cannot lose this game. It shouldn't happen, but it will happen. So Tennessee cannot lose this game. Georgia loses this game, they have 3 losses. They're out. They're done. The only way they get in is if there's some fuckery that goes on up in the Big Ten, which could happen. But
very true.
This to me is an elimination game, which makes it, being that it's the only really like highly ranked game of this week, that gives a little bit more intrigue to me that, hey, these teams are going to be, these teams should be putting it all out on the line for their college playoff hopes.
Yeah. And what's surprising to me is that Georgia's a 10-point favorite in this game.
Yes, hugely favored. So they are playing at the
I know they're playing.
Home,
they're playing in Athens, but still, I
mean, this is a huge rivalry game.
Yes.
Yep. And like I said, I mean, if they can control this game with that running back situation and then try to have Carson Beck get them in a negative script to have Carson Beck come back and try to win this game, as we said earlier, Beck can't win this game. So Tennessee could keep it low scoring, but also dominate the time of possession and then just kill Georgia. But if Georgia's defense can step up, then they've got a shot. Plus, the run game returned back to what it was for Georgia, that is.
Correct.
All right. We'll go ahead and take a break here, and we'll be back in just a few moments with the next round.
That's good. That's good. Man, that's good. That's what you call gumbo. Poor man gumbo.
And welcome back from the break as we're ready to get into a supersized pot of the gumbo. This is going to be a big one here, so hope you got the extra large pot to get this one simmering in. But we'll go ahead and you got something for the gumbo, Caleb. So let's go ahead and start off with what you had. Get after it.
Yeah. So a couple of things I forgot first in the NFL segment. Happy retirement, Brandon Williams, ex-defensive tackle for the Ravens, retiring. Happy. Wish we could use him now, but happy retirement.
That old fatso is done.
That's why he's retiring. But anyway, and the Ravens unfortunately also lost their streak of 100-yard rushing games by kneeling down on the last play of the Baltimore-Cincy game. They only gave them 99 total rushing yards for the game. So that streak's over, but kind of interesting to see the way it ended. Then the next thing I have is college basketball starting, gentlemen. We have some of the first rankings out. Kansas is number 1, but UConn coming in at a strong number 3, which honestly is way too high for them. They need to be 5, 6 to me to start the year. They've got some stuff to prove. This is not a kind of cookie cutter paste team like it was last year, where I complained why they weren't higher in the seeds. But so far they've started out good, 2 wins to start us off, but they haven't really played anybody yet. We'll see at the Maui Invitational potentially if they can do anything. And then the first slate of games in the week or month of December, you've got number 12 Baylor, Texas, who lost, so they're not ranked anymore, but it's still Texas. And then currently number 4 Gonzaga, back to back as it were. Yeah, I know, but they are 4th. So they've got an interesting slate. We'll see if this is the UConn of old, as it were, necessarily, or if they deserve this number 3 spot. Like I don't think they do, but we'll see. Also, UConn will be facing East Texas A&M November 19th. The alma mater will be facing them.
And the big name change happening this week, where Texas A&M Commerce finally getting what everyone who's gone there always wanted: the name change to East Texas A&M University.
Thank God.
ETSU. Old ET is finally old ET again.
Everyone
very true. Very true.
Begged for since they changed it the first fucking time.
A lot of fits. But just a couple interesting upsets too to start off the year. You got UFC upsetting at the time number 13 Texas A&M 64 to 61.
For UCF, you mean?
Sorry, yes, I thought I said UCF, but no worries. If not, UCF was definitely the school that beat Texas A&M.
Yes.
Then Auburn beating Houston as well.
That was after the flight.
Here's the score: 74 to 69. Yeah, the flight that got turned around.
Correct, exactly. After a fight.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that flight got the Auburn flight to Houston got turned around due to a fight on the plane, and then somehow
the Auburn players.
Wow.
Yeah. Somehow they landed it in. Yeah. It's interesting to hear like the captain's call. They've got that released now. They're like, we've got 2 gentlemen in a fight. But though an interesting thing someone pointed out to me is one of the players in the fight, a freshman who was involved in the fight, kind of looked a little defeated, even though they were winning on some of these plays when he wasn't necessarily getting the ball. So they're thinking maybe this guy is kind of a glory hound. I don't know. I'll have to see maybe in the future. But that's one of the guys that was involved in the fight. I'll have to look up his name for next time. But yeah, but they still beat Houston 74-69. So yeah, go them, but go UConn. Hopefully we can get a back-to-back with UConn. If that's the case, Dan Hurley's probably definitely gone after this year. But either way, but yeah, that's all I've got on that one. I think you said you had some other stuff, some English Premier League as your long-suffering Arsenal fan.
Yes. We've been long suffering here at the Porter household of Arsenal fans that and it continues to suffer because this week, after having a 1-0 lead over Chelsea, in Chelsea, losing that lead and having to take another tie, 1-1.
Yep.
And it's just been really, really rough on the season. Just 19 points here for the season, in fourth place behind Chelsea. Liverpool has a commanding 8-point lead right now. And it's just, for as long as we've been Arsenal fans here, it's just been really, really rough. It continue seeing this, with the success.
Arsenal's definitely not started out as strong as they did last year.
No.
Well, it's just Liverpool dominating again.
Well, I mean, they're currently ranked fourth right now. Arsenal never got below 2, I think, last year.
What it is Liverpool's dominating the games they need to, and Arsenal's not winning the games that they need to win. They should have won this game last week against Chelsea. They gave up a goal late. They should have beat Liverpool, where they gave up a goal in extra time there in the second period. They're not finishing out the games. Now, of course, down that Liverpool game, they
lost to Newcastle.
They lost to Newcastle. Well, the week
Burger
before
Company?
that.
No, sorry.
Yeah. That's my father-in-law's favorite team because he likes the beer. But
yep.
They're not finishing games they need to finish. They're not looking as sharp later in the game. Last season, whenever they'd score a goal, it was like a feeding frenzy. They'd score 2 more just quickly after that. And now they're struggling to get one in. And once they do, it's prevent defense to try and stop anybody from scoring on them after that, which, as we all know, prevent defense just prevents you from winning. So not looking good there for Arsenal, but we'll see how it continues. The season's a long season, so they still have time, but they need to start racking up some wins here soon. But the other big news is Ipswich Town is able to get their first ever win in the EPL, winning 2-1 against the Tottenham Hotspurs. And as bad as Arsenal played, at least they didn't lose to Ipswich Town. I mean, just suck it, Tottenham. Suck it.
And what's amazing is how Ipswich has had 5 draws this year, but no win. But they finally get one against a Tottenham team that's in complete shambles. One thing that I wanted to bring up, and I know this is going to be popular with some members of your family, Mr. Porter, is the performance of Nottingham Forest this year. Currently 5th in the EPL. 19 points so far, tied with Arsenal, tied with Brighton.
The threat of relegation from last year.
Correct. They barely made it out, and then now it appears that they're going to be fully safe. Also, I think it's great to see Fulham coming back. They had some pretty lean years for a while, but now they're getting back to their appropriate status as well.
Big surprise I've seen, though, is the fall of West Ham.
Yes.
West Ham has looked putrid this year. The only team I think that was around middle of the road that looks worse than them is Wolverhampton, which is in threat of getting relegated if they don't really start turning things.
We're pretty close.
Yeah, I think Wolverhampton has some serious trouble. They barely just made it this past season out of relegation. Man U is in some serious trouble right now. I mean, they're not going to be relegated, but just the fact that their standards, that's pretty horrible. Aston Villa has fallen back a little bit as well. So
Aston Villa is sitting more down now around the 10th seed, I think.
Correct.
They were up in the four, up around the top four for most of the season last year, but
correct.
But yeah, that's a little news across the pond. Talking about the Mavericks as well. Mavericks are coming into tonight 5-5. They're 0-2 in their last two games, where they've lost only by about 2 points in each of those games. And playing as we're currently talking right now with Klay Thompson's return to Golden State. And the Mavericks actually are just here in the second quarter have just taken the lead.
Yes, they started off this game pretty slow with Golden State really controlling the pace of the game so far. And then all of a sudden, Luka Doncic woke up and
what Luka does.
Yes, and Klay Thompson now has 3 threes in this game in his return to San Francisco. And I thought it was interesting that God.
You thought it was interesting the God got involved in this game?
Oh, shit. I thought I got disconnected again. My bad.
Nope, you're still here.
We're still here. All right. So what was interesting to me is the fact that Jason Kidd called out his team for being flat and having a lack of energy before that Denver game on Sunday. Now, granted, they lost the Denver game on Sunday because they just got jokish by Denver.
That's
there's
a monster triple doubles.
I mean, there's really nothing you can do when that happens. But I thought they played it with solid effort in that game, and then tonight they're off to they're looking good right now. And so we'll see if Jason Kidd calling them out a little bit of a fire under them. So, but yeah, decent start for the Mavericks tonight.
And then the Dallas Stars last night getting a 7-1 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins, scoring 6 goals in the first period. And the Stars, right before that, took a hard loss to Winnipeg. Winnipeg right now is looking hot. They are the best team in the West and the best team in the entire league. And the Stars, everybody keeps thinking they're going to take this next step. They're going to take this next step. They're beating the teams they need to beat because the Penguins are atrocious this year. No one around Pittsburgh had any hopes for them after this season. I mean, they're a little too long in the tooth. They're not going to make the playoffs. They didn't make the playoffs last year, finally breaking that streak. But they're not good. The Penguins are not good. So they beat the Penguins the way they should. That was the only reason of bringing up the game, is because they scored 6 goals in the first period, which is just absurd. But the Stars still have a lot they need to do going forward, especially if they're going to try to take out Winnipeg, and also the New York Rangers, who are also looking hot here early in the season.
Right. I think that's kind of the disappointing thing so far for Dallas this season. And look, I mean, you're in the NHL, just like all the top professional leagues. A win is a win. However, you would have liked to at least get one of those wins against Florida and Finland. Mm-hmm. They got nothing. And then
the Florida lost.
Yeah, and then you get your ass kicked by Winnipeg on Saturday. So yeah, that's disappointing. I think, yeah, you've definitely beat the teams that you should have beaten. Pittsburgh is god awful. as you alluded to. But yeah, and now look, it's all about the playoffs for the Stars at this point. And I think the way that you gain some confidence, some momentum going into the playoffs is just um, at the very beginning, at least start being competitive with these top teams like Florida, like Winnipeg, and you haven't really been competitive thus far. So
The only thing I'm really hoping for is that if they're going to have their bad streak, let it happen now. Let it happen
sure,
now,
sure.
middle of the season. Have your bad games now. That way you can go ahead and hit your stride going in after the All-Star game into the playoffs to make your playoff push and get hot going to the playoffs. That's what you have to do as a hockey team is get hot going to the playoffs. Those are the teams that have the most success.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with that. And then, yeah, if you're going to suck now and do not do it at the end of the year. That's the last time you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
All right. Well, Jeff, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up? I think I know one thing that you wanted to talk about.
Yes, I do. And just because the way the calendar fell and the way things worked out, I wanted to confirm the result of the World Series, which everyone knows the Dodgers win in 5 games. The last time we were on the air was at the conclusion of Game 4, where the Yankees destroyed the Dodgers 11-4 with multiple fan interferences, one of which was total bullshit by that Yankees fan, literally grabbing Mookie Betts' hand and taking the ball out of his glove. How they're banned for the rest of the season. No, they need to be banned for life from every single MLB stadium, never allowed to watch an MLB game again. But
in person,
the Dodgers end up winning the very next night in Game 5, 7-6. The Yankees were up 5-0 in that game, and they just
a complete meltdown.
Complete meltdown in that 5th inning. I have
supposedly,
no idea.
I don't know if you've seen that scouting report. Honestly, I think the first baseman should have been there, but either way, we can debate that. But I mean, Aaron Judge dropping the ball, Volt throwing
Aaron Judge dropping the ball. Aaron Judge not being able to hit the ball.
Well, that was the problem all series. I'm just talking about the 5th inning. Like these all happened basically around the same time.
All that was in the 5th.
Out of the bases being loaded, and then just like I said, like the scouting report apparently has come out on the Yankees. Like they're more flash than they are substance. If you push them, they're going to make an error. They're more worried about their own stats than they are the team stats and winning. And honestly, it just looked like the Dodgers scouting department did a phenomenal job against the Yankees, but it is not a glowing report against the Yankees for sure. Like you said, Judge not being able to hit, just the errors, mental breakdowns they had, just a complete and utter collapse. And all it took was Mookie Betts really just running hard, and that basically sealed the deal.
Yeah, and there's only so much Giancarlo Stanton could do in the series, and only so much Juan Soto could do.
And Juan Soto out on the free agent market and going to be commanding top dollar.
He'll get that $700 million. Yeah,
Garrett Cole even opted out of his contract, but then kind of coming back.
But then he did decide to come back in. He
Garrett
opted
Cole
back
does
in.
that all the time. He does that all the time. He opts out and comes back in. There was no worry that the Yankees were worried about losing Garrett Cole. He was coming back in and resign.
Correct. Yeah, that was very.
But that was an adjustment. They're going to have to try and get Soto back because I know the Mets are going to be throwing it hard to try and sign him away. And with them getting to the NLCS, they actually have, hey, we're not just a terrible team that can pay you a lot of money. Like, we actually made it almost all the way, and you could be the piece that helps get us over the edge. Yeah. They've got a selling point now, the Mets do, with the way their season ended up. So there's some viable teams that could be out there vying for Juan Soto's services. I wish the Rangers were one of them, but that's not going to happen.
No,
Yeah.
there's about. I mean, he could come up with potentially, 8 or 9 teams that are in the running for Juan Soto, and yes, I don't believe the Rangers are one of them.
No, not at all.
But and then just one other thing, just to shift back to the NBA, I'll bring up the other Western Conference final team, and that's the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're currently 6-4 at the moment. They're losing to Portland at the half, 60-53, unfortunately. Anthony Edwards has had a phenomenal start to the season, the quickest man to get to. Let's see, what was the stat, Caleb, exactly that you brought up off air?
He's got the second most threes through 10 games. Only Steph Curry has more than him. I think he has 50 on the dot.
Correct. Yes. Second to Steph Curry and quickest to threes in 10 games with 50 3-point shots. He's been phenomenal to start off the season. I would say that Julius Randle has been solid, particularly scoring. I would like to see him be a little more physical down low. But again, as we discussed before the season, even during the end of last year and at the start of this season, Mike Conley is old. He is getting old very fast. That's why we made the trade to get Rob Dillingham. That's why we traded up in the draft to get him at number 8. And sooner or later, Rob Dillingham is going to be the starting point guard of this team. And it needs to be probably sooner than later. Look, I love Mike Conley. He is a great pro, great human being, but he cannot start anymore. Or he cannot provide more than 20 quality minutes a game. And it just needs to end. And it's sad. It's sad because, I mean, he's a really, again, I wish no ill will towards Mike Conley. I really am thankful for his services. He's been a great leader for this team. His intangibles have been fantastic, but it just, it's probably time for him to go. DiVincenzo's been okay. I've expected a little more from him thus far, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, and then also Jaden McDaniels. I feel like he's been a little bit of his defense has fallen off a little bit, and what you count on from him. But hey, season is very long. No reason to panic just yet. As long as you didn't dig yourself too much into a hole, i.e. Milwaukee, who could be firing Doc Rivers at any moment at this point.
Yeah.
But
you should hire Adrian Griffin back.
hire Adrian Griffin back if they want Giannis to go ahead and leave. But still a long season to go for the Wolves and for the Mavericks as well. So a little bit of slow starts for both of our teams, but no reason to panic just yet.
Well, one reason why I think the Mavericks lost the last couple of games because Derek Lively was out injured for both of them, which he's back in this game and already exerting his dominance.
He's been good so far.
Hey, Derek Lively's the second best player on this team. And you were saying that last year, Caleb. As a rookie. Yeah. After you doubted him, then you had to come back and, trace it back.
I did. I was like, we drafted this guy, but then he was phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was too raw too, but he was not.
he fit into the system perfectly. He accepted his role, and he can give him time. He's not there yet, but he could be the best passing center in the league if you give him some time, because the kid is already making great passes as it is.
True.
Yes.
But give him some time. Give him some time.
Yeah, and then again, just like last year, they're using that Gafford Lively combination that continues to work great for them. And then we'll see if Najee Marshall can add that extra defense that on the perimeter that Dallas is lacking, particularly in that final series against Boston. Also bring back Spencer Dinwiddie.
I was going to say, bringing back Dinwiddie to me was huge, just because then you have someone you can trust who knows the offense to come in for either Luca or Kai, and you have somebody who can come in and run the offense that knows how everything runs. I thought that was a good sign to bring him back.
Yeah, and Spencer Dinwiddie realizes he ate crow.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
By calling out Dallas.
Now, I do have to say right before we wrap it up that they just showed the injury report, and I forgot about it, but the Chet Holmgren injury that happened this week, out 8 to 10 weeks. And he was having an MVP type season.
That's a huge loss for the Thunder. And also, too, I think it's kind of sorry, there's what the hell is going on? Anyway,
yeah, kind of.
No, as far as Chet Holmgren is concerned, you know, I'm afraid that this just signs to come in the future. I mean, he already has missed a ton of time with leg injuries to begin with, and you know, to have this happen again. And how many times have we seen historically these 1-year big men? They come to the league and then their body falls apart. It doesn't even have to be a 1-year big man. Greg Oden.
Mm-hmm.
And what sucks for Oklahoma City is that this is a playoff team. And a legit playoff team.
They were the number one seed last year.
They were the number one seed in the Western Conference Final. Or the Western Conference. So yeah,
it is, but it's also 8 weeks and you're early in the season.
It is. They still have a chance to go on. But
yeah,
I see where just going is he's had injury problems that kept him out his entire.
He had him in college.
College.
He's got nagging injuries. Like that's just something unfortunate.
Last year he had a good season, but is last year his one good season? Is it now? Maybe he'll play, and if he does, is he going to even be 75% of what what you expect him to be? What Chet Holmgren are we getting from after this injury? Are we going to get someone to come back and stay healthy the rest of the season, or is it going to be all right? He'll be playing for 4 weeks, and then he's out for 2 weeks, and he comes back for 6 weeks, and he's out for 10 weeks. What are we going to get? And we're going to find that out as the season goes along. But if I was a Thunder fan, I would not. I'd be a little. My butt would be puckered. I would be a little puckered about it because they're still a good team without him, but they're a great team with him.
Right.
Healthy.
Very true.
And yeah, I mean, this is all Shea's team at this point. But yeah, I mean, just devastating for Chet. And then it'll be interesting to see if they make any acquisitions or any moves at the deadline.
So you're always just hovered over that panic button. I mean, I know being a Bengals, Timberwolves, Nationals, Gators fan, it's easy for you to hover over the panic button, but are you hovering over it a little too quickly?
I mean, maybe a little bit. And again, I just, there's injury concerns with Chet coming out of college. Look, the kid is so thin, and he looks like if you tap him, he could break his leg. And he didn't play at all his rookie season. Now, granted, in fairness to him, he's played and started all 82 games for Oklahoma City last year, and a little surprising that he did that. And I don't know if that's maybe a little regret by Oklahoma City for having him play that much, even though he had the ability to do so. And then now he's going to be out to 8 to 10 weeks. And, as we discussed, what's for the future? Is he going to be out? He comes back for 2 weeks, and then he's going to be out for 4 weeks, and then he's back for 3 weeks, and he's out for 4 weeks. And then and again, we've seen this time and time again with big men, even going back to as far as Bill Walton. So, you hope that's not the case for Chet in Oklahoma City, because he is a vital part of this team. And again, as we alluded to, they were the number 1 seed going into the Western Conference before Dallas took them out. So hopefully it's not serious enough to the point for Chet to where it's season ending or career threatening, but a little concerning for sure.
Yeah, but see, again, 8 weeks to me seems like it's not super concerning. But if they start saying, "Oh, hey, we got to add another week," he's not quite there yet. That's where you definitely get concerned.
All right. Well, unless you guys have anything else, I think we'll go ahead and finish off the gumbo here.
Good.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining us once again this week. Hope you had fun. We had fun. I'd like to remind everyone to follow us on all of our social media platforms, and Facebook and Twitter, or X, I should say, and here on YouTube, where this is always posted. Please let us know if there's anything you want us to hear us talk about. We love to hear back from you, from our fans, and go ahead and bring you the content that you want to hear. But once again, for Caleb Culver, for Jeff Amos, this is Chris Porter. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and we'll see everyone again on the next round. Cheers.
Cheers.